Hey everyone, this is Erica Lucas, your host and founding member of VEST, an organization connecting women across industries, regions, and career levels, so that together we can expedite the pipeline of more women in positions of power and influence. Welcome to another episode of the Vester podcast, where we explore the invisible barriers holding women back in the workplace and share stories of women building power collectively.
Anything that scared you when you first started?
For me, I was really scared of being broke because I had a six-figure job, and then leaving this cushy job that I really loved really scared me.
What is the biggest misconception?
I would say, I think from this conversation, it's a testament to that, but there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Oftentimes you'll hear from other founders, from investors on Twitter, on social or YouTube that you have to do it this way. And that's simply not the case.
Arielle?
You work all the time, all the time. And if you're not physically working, you're thinking about it or you're coming up with something, it's nonstop.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to own a business? The highs, the lows, and the untold stories? You're not alone. 50 years ago, the idea of women managing their own company would have seemed ambitious at best. Today, more women are choosing entrepreneurship. In fact, there are now more women entrepreneurs than ever before. But why are so many women choosing this path? According to a recent study, women listed desire to pursue their passion as their number one reason to step into the world of entrepreneurship. Finance independence was second and flexibility third. In this episode, our Chief Operating Officer, Gaby Eichenlaub, talks to VEST members who took the leap into entrepreneurship. Listen as Noelle Acosta, co-founder and CEO of Noula, a digital health company in the reproductive care space, Arielle Brown, founder of Bayo Skincare, a herbal and probiotic personal care brand for eczema-prone scalp and skin, as well as Dr. Tabatha Carr, founder of GoodGirl Chocolate, a plant-based chocolate that supports all lifestyles, share their journey into entrepreneurship. To access our guest's full bio and for show notes, go to www.vesther.co/podcast. This recording was part of a more intimate coaching session with VEST members and has been repurposed to accommodate this episode.
Why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Was it something you wanted to do, something that you kind of had in your mind for a long time, or was it just all of a sudden I'm jumping into this?
Sure, I can jump in. I actually wanted to be a doctor growing up, so I did check that box. But never in a million years did I think I would own my own chocolate factory. So for me, I started out working at a technology company. I had a 9-to-5, and it's just one of those things. It's that gut feeling that tells you. And I actually I was in school while I was at the technology company, but it was that gut feeling for me that told me, it's time. It's time to take the leap. You graduated. I had just applied to present my chocolate at the Texas Women's Conference, and they accepted it. So it was like, Tabatha, go do it.
Yeah, for me, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but truthfully, I didn't know how to get there. And similarly, I was actually studying pre-med in undergrad, and my goal was to become an OBGYN. I'm a first generation college grad and supported myself through school. And the way I did that was actually through my own venture. And I ended up selling it at 21 years old. And so that was my first taste of really entrepreneurship. And so I decided to do the complete opposite. And I built a career in tech sales. And really the catalyst for me to finally take the leap, because it is a risky leap. I didn't know any entrepreneurs. I didn't know how I would financially support myself if I were to take this leap. And I sure did not know a single investor when I first sought out to build this path. But the catalyst for me was after I was experiencing my own challenges with my reproductive health, and just feeling angry and dismissed by the healthcare system. And I knew that that was something that I wanted to change. And so that really was a calling for me to say, okay, let's take the leap. And if I fail, at least I tried and I did something meaningful, and hopefully change a few lives along the way. And now here we are.
That sounds very similar in terms of just, hey, let's jump in and see what happens. I'm here now. I love what I'm doing. It's fun every day. For me, it was pretty much similar. Just I was doing school social work. I'd been doing that here in New Orleans. I really loved what I do. And I just felt like a calling to do something else. Then the pandemic happened. I was already trying a different career path. And I was happened to be having a flare up with my scalp. I maybe from the stress from COVID and just life changes at the time. And so I tried a DIY and it helped me. It helped a friend. Next thing I know, it was helping a few more people and a few more people. And then they were coming back. And so I think I kind of always have had that bug for creativity and creating different business ideas. I just never found something that completely aligned with not only who I am, but who I want to be. And so finding that just felt right. And I just kept going.
I heard a little bit of like the fear of the unknown, not knowing either investors or, where to get started. But were there any other doubts or something that stands at the forefront? Anything that scared you when you first started?
I think for me, it was people who have built companies specifically. I'm speaking to like my sector specifically in the tech world, health tech, and companies that are funded by venture capital dollars. Those founders don't look like me. They don't have backgrounds like I do. And I remember when I was first toddling the idea of taking this leap, the very first woman I spoke with told me I need to get my first $500,000 from my friends and family. I didn't have access to that capital. And in order to get that capital, those investors also need to be accredited, which requires them to have a certain net worth that no one in my family or my network actually had. And so that was probably the biggest doubt that was in my mind is the space meant for me? Can I succeed by really kind of operating as a black sheep? I'm a brown young woman with tattoos who comes from immigrant parents and I don't have access to that capital. And so that was a stark difference than the founders that I personally worked for, and also the founders that you see building and leading companies. And I think we can even see that through A16Z's recent investment in Adam Newman's pre-seed company of $350 million, over $1 billion valuation, without it even launching yet. So, I think the universe, including healthcare, has told us this world wasn't built for you. And I think that was kind of the biggest thing that made me scared to take the leap.
For me, I was really scared of being broke because I had a 6-figure job, and then leaving this cushy job that I really, really loved really, really scared me. But I had to go back to my purpose. I had to go back to my why and really lean on my faith and understand that journey and what God had taken me through, being on my very first blood pressure pill at 16, being on 3 blood pressure pills at 30, the doctor threatening me with a hysterectomy because I was having hormonal problems, and diagnosed as a pre-diabetic, and everything that was going on with me with my health, and being able to overcome all of those things, overcome anxiety, getting off blood pressure pills for the first time in 20 years. I went back to school to study naturopathy because I had accomplished all of these things and lost over 80 pounds and changed my relationship with food. I knew there were women out there that were having problems with anxiety, infertility, fibroids, blood sugar, blood pressure. So it was just God nudging me saying, I've trained you, I've equipped you, I've given you everything you need. And now not only do you have this practice that you can build, you now have chocolate. that has been confirmed that is really, really fantastic. What are you scared of? Go do it. I didn't know of programs like Stitch Crew. I didn't even really know what an investor was, to be honest with you. I didn't know, I had never heard of an angel investor. I just quit and started my own business. So it wasn't me talking to anyone that had been through it or had gone through it. So it was very scary for me. So I really just had to lean on my faith in order to have the courage to do it.
That's really amazing. And thanks for sharing that. That's amazing testimony. For me, I felt some apprehension more so about the products itself and liability and what that world would look like if I go from hobby to this is my business, this is my baby, my name's going to be on it, my social security number is attached to it. Like, are people going to complain? Are they going to like it? Will I have to make a bunch of changes? Is insurance going to cost a whole bunch of money? I kind of thought about liability and what that would look like as a business owner in this space. I definitely had some concerns about just being new and being in something completely different for the very first time, really. But it was still fun. And I woke up every day feeling excited about, and I still do, excited what email I'm going to have, or if someone left a review, or if, I come up with a new product idea. So as long as I'm continued to be inspired, I know that it's not just coming from me. It's not about me. And that takes the pressure and the fear away from me because it's about the people that I want to help every day and having fun while I do it.
So many unknowns. It's a big risk, not only in the, business side of it, but also just personally stepping out there and saying like, I'm doing something different. We have a question in the chat. Speaking of, afraid of being broke, were any of you afraid to lose health insurance? I know that's a big deterrent. Yes.
I was uninsured for a few months. So it was scary. I was walking around like I felt like I was in the movie Bubble Boy, where I just wanted to wrap myself in bubble wrap and just be like, don't let anything happen.
Exactly. Yes, that's a great question. And yes, you're afraid to lose the securities of someone else taking care of those big life decisions where you can just sign a piece of paper and say, yes, I agree to match whatever. Yes, this is going to go into a retirement account. Yes. I had this conversation recently with some other female founders, just that balance between, okay, now I'm leaving a security blanket and I'm going to create a new security blanket. So don't feel like you're necessarily losing it. You're just creating it yourself in a way that fits your new life.
Great advice. As I was hearing you all talk, one thing that kind of came up over and over is having your purpose, having your why. It seems like all three of you have at least like it. It's a big risk. It's a big jump, but you've all kind of been able to look back at like either personal challenges or personal reason for, keep moving forward. But I want to go specifically to Dr. Carr. You spoke a little bit about how you started, but I wanted to know, what did you do first when you decided, okay, I'm moving forward with this? What was the first step that you took?
The first step I took, well, first of all, I went through a process. After I graduated, I actually held on to my 9-to-5 for another year. One of the things I wanted to make sure of is that I was successful and I was setting myself up for success and not really setting myself up for failure. I remember having a big women's wellness event at the Girl Scouts building in 2017. And so many women showed up. I was amazed. It was a free event and I was able to get food and stuff donated from Whole Foods. And the turnout, I guess I just didn't realize that women were so hungry for this education and for this information. And I remember going home that night and thinking, I have to get up in the morning and I have to work my 9-to-5, for another technology company. At the same time, I had just gotten word, from the Texas Women's Conference that I could present my chocolate. So it was just this gut instinct. It was this instinct. And if you just kind of just listen to God and listen to what you're supposed to do, it's like, So I didn't take really any additional steps. I just put in my 2-week notice. And the company I worked for gave me a raise. Okay. And they ended up giving me a gold award, which is the highest honor and highest award at the company. I'd been with this company for 10 years, and now they decide to give me a gold award when I put in my 2-week notice. So, it wasn't me necessarily writing down this plan. I'm going to do this. 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 It was more like, let's make sure you are set up for success. You have what you need. You've graduated. Now you have a product. Let's go change the world. And I quit.
Wow. Big leap. Noelle, also, you spoke about this a little bit as you were sharing some of your fears. Less than 2% of all venture capital goes to women of color, but you've recently managed to close a $1.4 million round as one of the very few Latinas to have raised more than $1 million. Can you tell us what that process was like? Especially as you mentioned earlier, you had never seen someone that you knew or someone like that go through that.
Yeah. So it was a very intense process, and one that required probably more grit and resilience than I ever thought was humanly possible. I'm going to be very vulnerable right now. Part of the reason why I took this leap was because last year I had a scare with a potential brain tumor, and luckily I'm okay. But that was really the catalyst for me to say, okay, let's dive right in. And knowing that, I didn't have, this long-term vision of saying, okay, I'm going to save up as much money as I can for 1-2 years so that I can, safely take this leap. I pretty much said, okay, I have a few months to make this happen. And so the way I approached it was in 2 parts. First, I wanted to use my experience in and out of the clinic to see was I the only person that experienced that, or was this common for women and birthing people? So I actually biked all around San Francisco, chasing down any woman I saw to see if she would talk to me, which probably scared a few too many people. But I interviewed over 250 women and birthing people about their experience navigating their reproductive health journeys. Even today, when I speak on panels, I have people raise their hands if they've ever felt dismissed or ignored by their providers. And 99% of the time, every woman has her hand up. And so I knew I was onto something. So the first thing I did right after I quit my job was call an OBGYN I knew who absolutely hated Noula. I told her my idea, and she was like, this is not worthy of a company. I would never recommend your product. You are instilling fear in patients, and they should not be, having access to this data about their health. And I remember I walked for 2 hours straight, and I was like, I left everything behind, and I was a primary breadwinner in my partnership, and I was panicking, but I was like, in my gut, I knew that my experience and the experience of other women that I spoke to needed to change. So I trusted that, and I trusted the voice of patients to steer me there. And there's also a plethora of studies that also validate that there are gaps in healthcare today. And we see that in the maternal mortality rates. We see that in the poor outcomes that specifically impact all women, and especially Latina and Black women. And then so knowing that, I was fortunate enough to join an accelerator program where they give us $25,000 for 3 months. So that helped me stay afloat. I picked up my life and moved from San Francisco to New York because I thought this is going to be probably the best place for me to get around and talk to digital health investors, get exposure to Noula. And then I worked backwards. So I said, okay, I have until end of February, maybe March, to secure a round. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back into the workforce. And so I outlined just the top 3 goals I wanted to accomplish to demonstrate that Noula was a venture backable business. And I had the odds stacked against me because I was a solo founder at the time. I'm a woman of color. So again, we receive like 0.4% of funding. And I was a pre-product, pre-revenue company, which was very difficult to raise on. And so I did everything I could to really show conviction in my story and what we were building and how we were going to build this path to a scalable, repeatable, and predictable business that also reshapes reproductive healthcare for good. So really work backwards from those goals. And, during the middle of this, I ended up being diagnosed with epilepsy. So I was showing up to investor meetings with 30 wires on my head, and I did not care. I was doing everything that I could to share my story and why investing in Noula was we needed to do that now versus later or to write it off. So when there were events, I was always the first person there and the last person to leave because I wanted everyone in that room to know who I was and walk away saying, like that company Noula, interesting. And I got faced with tons of rejection. I probably got 100 no's. And then finally, probably end of January, I started these conversations like end of November. And then finally, end of January, I was closing out like an angel allocation. And then all of a sudden I was getting forwarded emails from investors saying, have you heard of Noelle from Noula? Have you heard of Noelle from Noula? And then I raised 1.1 within a week. Had to turn money away. And then most recently, we additionally received another 100K in non-dilutive capital from Google. So 1.5 total now.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So much grit and just nonstop work. It can be very just depressing sometimes, just as you mentioned, you had to go through so many no's and that can really turn you away from what you're doing. I'm sure having that why, having that reason for doing that is super important during that time.
Mm-hmm. And I'd be remiss not to acknowledge that I did make time to take care of myself. It was an emotionally taxing journey and on me physically too, given what I was going through. So I did make space to take care of myself. Some founders and investors say only you should take 40 meetings a week or like 40 to 100 meetings in a week and shorten it as much as possible. But I knew for my mental health that I needed to create boundaries that allowed me to really show up as my best self and most empowered self.
Thank you for sharing. That's super important to share. And I think definitely important for all founders to hear, whether they're fundraising or not, right? Arielle, I also have a question for you. We've talked a little bit about, venture capital, kind of just putting in your 2 weeks notice super quick and just going at it. But you've chosen, for now at least, to not raise venture capital. Can you tell us why you've chosen that route and how you did finance the launch and now growth of your company?
Sure. So at the time of launching Bees Bayo, like I told you guys, I had been a school social worker and I've been doing that. And then similar to Dr. Tabatha, I took a year once I kind of got that inkling that it was time to go. I took a year while I also was transitioning into a different job to see if I could work for myself a bit. And then a couple years into that job, it was being a realtor. Someone took about $7,000 from me. That was supposed to be commissions that I had earned. And so then COVID happened, the summer happened. People were not really buying and selling. It was kind of like everybody was a little afraid to see what was happening in the world. And I started Bees Bayo with probably $40. I started with 10, I think I had started with 10 bottles, 10 or 40 bottles. And I was like, okay, I'll just reinvest whatever I make if I make anything. And just kept doing that and doing that. This was before all the privacy changes with Facebook and Instagram ads. So I wasn't really running ads. I was just letting it do its thing and it was growing on its own. And then those privacy changes happened. I learned that I was going to need money for marketing now. I was going to have to put a lot more into that. And I started researching. And, the algorithms, the bots, they learn what you're searching. They want to see what you're up to. And they started sending me a lot about entrepreneurship and different programs and cohorts and this whole new world that I never, ever heard of. And never had heard about angel investors. No one ever told me you could really work for yourself. I thought that was for people who, you grew up with parents who worked for themselves, you had money, they taught you how to do it, or you went to MBA, you got an MBA and those folks start businesses. It wasn't really ingrained in me that I could really start a company. It was more so, yeah, you can do this from outside of your house. You know, if you have people come by, you can sell them some stuff, but that's not a real job. So I was really just trying to figure out, how do I make this my life? I really like doing this. How do I do this? So I did learn about angel investment and VCs through just signing up for cohorts. I signed up for everything I could find. Some of them came with grants. Some of them only came with mentorship. Some came with both. But that was how I learned about it. So it was still really new. I'm just coming up to about, and this month, actually on the 24th will be my 2 years from my very first sale. And so I'm still learning about the process of what that would really look like when something you've birthed is now being shared. And what does that feel like? And I kind of have to sit with those emotions for a bit and sit with those feelings and also sit with the knowledge, because I'm continuing to learn. So I've been able to pitch to a lot of different folks. Some of them were angel investor groups. Some of them were individual angels, one of which I'm still pretty close with. And though we did not at the time create a deal together, mostly because I felt it was a little early before I had ever even gotten a big loan. You know, the biggest business loan I think I ever got was probably like 15 grand. And then all the other funding has come from grants. So it might be 5,000 here, 10,000 here. Just recently this summer, it was 100,000. And so that's been able to at least keep me afloat enough for me to prove to myself that I can build something even better. So when it is time for VCs, they have not only seen what I could build from $40 to maybe, I think we're a little bit under 230 in revenue right now. So if I could take that first 40 and turn it into that, I want them to see what they're going to get back with their investment. If they were to give me that 500,000, if they were to give me that million, I want to be able to say, look what I've been able to do with that 100. So for me, I love the idea of women really changing these statistics when it comes to VC. I hope to one day raise over $1 million. I just know right now, like this very moment, it's just not the time, but I'm having conversations with different bankers that I've met through some of the cohorts. And so I actually have a meeting tomorrow to see if I can get 150. If I can get 150,000 as a loan, I have a business plan in place. I have decks in place. We've got projections. Now I feel like, okay, if I can go in there and prove to them that they can give me this, I feel comfortable with that next step being VC. So we'll see how it goes. It's a journey, but I'm excited about it. And hopefully when I get to that point, I won't be giving up half, you know, because that, I wasn't willing to do that. And I got that partnership offer and I was like, this ain't the time for that. Let me show you what I can do first. And then I'll come back and we'll talk. So I'm excited about it. And I have some VCs in mind. So, you know, we just keep working, keep building. And I'm excited about it when it comes.
Yes. Important to keep in mind that, you know, VC, while a great option, is not the only option. As you were talking about, you know, grants, I don't know if, you know, maybe not everyone has heard of like these different pitch competitions or just all the different opportunities for non-dilutive funding, as you mentioned, where you don't have to give up 50 or even 5%. You can keep it all. But any specific tips? You've mentioned you've been in a couple of cohorts, you've been in a couple of pitch competitions. Any tips that you can give for someone that is looking at making?
Absolutely. So my very first involvement was a pitch competition. It was through Black Girl Ventures. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of a pitch deck. Very first time I was like, we're going to do what? And people are going to watch us and maybe they'll give us some money for, you know, to help our business. That's amazing. And that was just a first introduction. And like I said, I just started researching and Googling, and then more information would come through different newsletters. I highly recommend signing up for different newsletters. You've got Vest Her, you have Enrich Her, you have I Fund Women, Fund Black Founders. There's so many. If you just get on the even like the Tory Burch Foundation, there's so many. Their newsletters will send out announcements for when these opportunities pop up. Hello Alice is a good one to get those updates. And I would just apply. I'd have, we did get some pitch deck training, but you can get on YouTube and ask for pitch deck training. You can ask other founders. You can find my pitch deck on my one pager. I'm happy to share it. Even my business plan, I just continue to work on these things. You have to, of course, know who you're talking to, who you're pitching to, do a little research, make sure that you're giving them, don't be afraid to talk about yourself, talk about what you've accomplished and do so with pride. I just had a conversation with someone, another female founder, who's like, I'm afraid to talk about myself. I don't want to feel silly, like I'm trying to sell myself. It's like, no, people love confidence. People want to be around confidence. A lot of times people want to be around things that feel something in themselves. And so they're coming to you for your confidence about what you're building. So I would just say, go in there knowledgeable, go in there confident, have that pitch deck. And if you need help with it, there's so many people who are willing to do that. Slack groups like Stitch Crews. There's just, if you're in any Slack group, I would recommend asking for the help that you need, asking for examples. But yeah, that really helped me, just having mentorship like you guys, to help push you forward. So yeah, just don't be afraid to talk about yourself and talk about your amazingness.
Great advice. Yes. If you won't talk about you, who will, right? Thank you for all those resources. I'm sure, they're going to be seeing an uptick in newsletter subscriptions for sure.
I know, right? Oh, and crowdfunding. There's a company called Crowdfund Better, and they help train and help support you through your crowdfunding experience. So if you are looking to crowdfund, I would recommend them. Even if you just want to shoot them an email and just ask a quick question. They're really, really nice people. But crowdfunding is another way to raise non-dilutive funds if you do like a rewards-based crowdfund instead of giving away any equity.
We do have some comments and questions in the chat. Fatima said, I'm not ready for venture capital either. Thanks for sharing your experience. We also have a couple connections maybe being made. And then just a reminder, Noelle, Tabatha, and Arielle are Vest members, so don't forget to connect with them in the app after this session for sure. Shannon had a question about what has been your biggest challenges selling your products beyond friends and family. So I didn't know if you had that in mind for a specific person, Shannon, or for everyone, or if you wanted to elaborate.
Yeah, I was just curious as to what was your first step in going beyond your internal network to sell beyond that, and what challenges did you encounter in the sales process?
Sure. So I'll say my friends and family are just friends and family. They're really not my customers. If they do shop, I'm like, oh, thanks, girl. I saw you ordered something. That's awesome. But I didn't even put too much focus on them because I really wanted to stretch myself and not be too comfortable. And also, they don't necessarily make me the most comfortable. They're just not my audience. I found that I would personally just go on YouTube and find my audience. I knew that they were looking for products that would help their skin and their scalp. So I would go and find them, introduce myself, introduce my business, and say, hi, I see you're looking for something to help your scalp. Please check out our website. Here's the coupon code. I'm the owner. Message me, email me. I'm happy to answer any questions. So I really went and found them. I still do that. So you might see some comments randomly on YouTube. They're me, and it's really me. I still do that. Email marketing, SMS marketing, doing a lot of Instagram lives or videos, or doing giveaway contests where they can tag their friends and maybe other people they know who might need those products. And you end up growing your audience that way as well. Partnerships, participating in podcasts where you can share your story, your founder story. All of these are opportunities I've found to get not only customers, but folks who are really going to be a part of your journey. They might stick around for a lot longer because now they've learned your story, or they've been a part of a campaign that you've run. So that for me has been one of the ways that I've found customers outside of friends and family. But honestly, I don't even really focus on friends and family. They were definitely there for the crowdfunding campaign. They supported all the way. But I think as far as founder support, that's what my friends and family are for. For really sales and revenue and growing the business, I got to go find my people. And then I try to keep my people.
I agree with Arielle 100%. I don't like to put any type of pressure on my friends and family. Like, I don't expect them to buy from me. If they do, that's great. That just shows they love me, they support me, but they can't pay my bills. Friends and family can't do that. And I decided I thought my product could compete with any other truffle or chocolate in the market. So for me, I went straight to the mall. I ended up bootstrapping, by the way, a lot of money on packaging, making sure my product looked good, making sure it tasted good. I went and found a co-packer. And again, all of this stuff was coming out of my own pocket because I didn't know about people like Erica Lucas. Banks, when I went to them, they told me no, because I'm this new business and they're not going to give you any money unless you've been in business for a year or for 2 years. So thankfully, coming from a 9 to 5, I had a 401k. I had money that I could take out of, and plus I had a whole lot of credit cards. But I opened up online in June of 2018 and was in the mall in a kiosk 3 weeks later. And I remember that very first week in the mall, in a kiosk. Okay. So I'm not like a Godiva store with the pretty cases and everything. So I had my little kiosk thing. I had a mini fridge, okay, sitting on top of the kiosk, with my chocolate sitting in it. And I had these little cases on the kiosk with empty boxes, sitting in it, just showing little pretty boxes. And then I had a tray in my hand. And every time somebody walked by, would you like to try some chocolate? And that's how I started. And I think I made like $1,500 that very first week in a kiosk. And I was able to get so much feedback from people on how they like the chocolate, but I was only in that kiosk for 2 months. And that is because my co-packer stopped making my chocolate. So you can't be in a mall with chocolate and not have chocolate to sell. So I had to leave. And then my journey really started into researching bean to bar and figuring out I needed at least $100,000 in order to buy my own equipment, because we actually roast and grind the cocoa beans, and these grinders are, $15,000, $20,000 a pop, along with tempering machines and things that you need for the chocolate. So after I went through and found out about Stitch Crew, after I went through the program, I actually came out with my very first investor of $100,000 on a convertible. And that's something I had never heard of either. But through these cohorts, you learn these things. And actually just recently, my convertible got converted to a loan. So I, besides my friends and family, I own 98% of my company now again, which is amazing because now, I'm building this great company that's now been accepted into this Whole Foods cohort and some other things that I can't even mention. And like Arielle mentioned, she wanted to build this company first, increase that valuation. She didn't mention that, but that's what she's doing. She wants to increase that valuation, something that you'll learn about. So when you do decide to go to VCs and raise, this $1 million, now your company is worth so much more. So yeah, it's just been an exciting journey.
Yes, and important to note that you may have started off in the kiosk, but now you have your own store. I don't know if it's the same, but now you have.
I got my own chocolate factory, yeah. and that's how confident you have to be. I don't have a store; I have a factory. Yeah. I'm being the bar. I'm my own co-packer. I do it myself, and I have the employees. Of course, they're the team; they're the ones making chocolate. But I get in there and make chocolate too because of resources, because I haven't raised, $1 million. So we have a small team, taking it step by step until I get to that point. And like Arielle said, now I feel I'm at that point, and now I can go ahead and raise that million because I've made it this far. I have my own factory. We're getting ready to blow up in Whole Foods. We're getting ready to be on a home shopping network in the fall. So it's time.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think we heard some great, advice. Friends and family may not always be your customers. Find out who your true customers are and go after them. And sometimes that means, stopping all of them, in the street, like trying to figure out what their experience has been, or going to YouTube. So definitely doing things that don't scale. I do have a question for all of you, and then we'll go to you, Eliane. What is the biggest misconception about being an entrepreneur? There's so many stories, so many movies, so many ideas of what that journey will look like. And I definitely want to know what has been the biggest misconception for you all. Noelle, if you can.
Yeah, I would say, I think like from this conversation, it's a testament to that, but there's not a one size fits all approach. Oftentimes you'll hear from other founders, from investors on Twitter, on social or YouTube, that you have to do it this way. And that's simply not the case. At the end of the day, if you use the voice of your customer and use your story, like get very comfortable talking highly about yourself, because you are truly the face of your company and you're selling the vision. And so if you're in tune with all of those things, you'll know what the right path is for you. And just because, someone on YouTube or a successful founder says you need to raise this much and you need to, scale fast and break things, that's not always the right path forward.
Thank you, Arielle.
Two things. One, you work all the time, like all the time. And if you're not physically working, you're thinking about it or you're coming up with something, it's nonstop. That's one thing I learned pretty quickly. But I would say one of the processes that I went through that taught me a lot was actually meeting with an attorney, a securities attorney who does help with she works mostly in crowdfunding spaces and with entrepreneurs, raising VC funds and things like that. But I had reached out to her when I initially had that angel conversation, and we were starting to talk about terms, and we were talking about term sheets and what does that look like. And so I contacted her for help. And through that process, she asked, well, if you raise XYZ, at the time, we were only talking, I think, about $150,000 from this one angel. She's like, okay, if you had that, when can you pay her back? And I'm thinking, well, I guess I pay her immediately, right? Like I just start monthly payments. And she's like, no, that's not how this world works. You have to build, you can come up with the terms that you feel are best for your business based on your use of funds and your projections. And then at what year down the road can you actually start paying her back? And it made me rethink so many things about what this world of VC is and angel investing, and that it can actually be flexible in certain ways if you negotiate it right from the beginning. And so it really made me think about, maybe I can do this VC thing at some point and be confident and comfortable in it. And I can have not maybe the word control, but I can have a say, and I'm not losing everything I've built. I can have partners that I can work with, and it's beneficial to everyone. So it just opened my eyes. And through that process of going back and redoing my projections, going back and redoing my use of funds, and really looking at my numbers like I never looked at them before, exactly thinking about, okay, at the end of this, if it's a 10-year thing, at year 6, if I start paying them, start paying her back at year 6, what should the business look like at year 6? Does she want to convert that to equity and now be somewhat of a partner, or does she want it to just become a loan? So there's so many options. And I do encourage you to ask those questions if you need to talk to the professionals in that space, even long before you think about VC for your company. If you just want to ask those questions and start thinking about it now, I'm always thinking about what would be beneficial if there is an exit. What makes everybody happy? I still would want to make my investors really, really happy. But as the owner, and the founder, that's your baby. So I learned a lot about myself, my business, and my numbers through that process. I don't know if that's a misconception in any of that, but I learned a lot about that process. So if there are any misconceptions about it, talk to a professional. But yeah, I learned a lot through that.
You don't have to go it alone.
You don't have to go it alone, right?
It's definitely not what you see on social media, sitting on a beach, drinking margaritas all day. You see all of these posts or ads. Look at all this money I'm making, and I don't have to do anything. No, it's no, it's not like that. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some overnight successes out there, but it's hard work. And it's a lot of hours, don't think that you're going to, don't go into entrepreneurship for the wrong reasons, because you're fed up with your employer, because you're fed up with this coworker. You want to be your own boss. And, I hear these young ladies, that I'm mentoring when I'm talking to them. Well, I just want to be my own boss. I just want to, run my own business. Well, what do you want to do? They have no idea. They're in love with being your own boss and running your own business. And you have to have discipline. You have to have thick skin. There's so many characteristics that you need. I was sitting down talking with a member of Whole Foods last week, and he was telling me how he was trying to help this small business and how uncoachable they were. And it was like, we talked about this, but now you've done the complete opposite. And look what's happened. So you have to be coachable. Even though you have this leader mentality, you still have to be coachable as an entrepreneur. So those are the three biggies, be disciplined, be coachable, have thick skin. Why am I saying have thick skin? Because you're going to get your head cracked. You're going to get a lot of no's. You will fail. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. You learn from the past, live in the present, focus on the future. It's okay. You're going to learn from those mistakes. But that's why I say definitely have thick skin and expect to do the work. You have to be ready and prepared to do the work. And yes, you are going to, like Arielle said, you're going to work a whole lot of hours. You're going to work double the amount of time that you did for your 9 to 5. That's not to scare you, okay? I love what I do, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Great advice, and just definitely things to keep in mind. It was posted in the chat, overnight success in entrepreneurs usually happens 5 to 10 years later. We see the big successes on there, but we don't see all the late night hours and just the grind that it can be. And then, yes, Noelle mentioned you need to be obsessed about solving a problem and not just, that I want to, be my own boss. There has to be an actual why behind what you're doing. Eliana, I wanted to make sure we got your question in.
Thank you. And I don't know if we have time, but this is like a complex question. I know that one of the walls that I hit when I went from working 8 to 5 to being on my own is that working 8 to 5, I was just process and procedures that I need to, follow. And being on my own, I need to create my own process, right? Which it was like tough. So I'm still creating it. So I'm wondering if, I know you said, Dr. Carr, that you were, find coach is like a way to go. But I'm wondering if creating your process, you did that on your own or you went and find help.
There are a lot of things that I did on my own, but there are a lot of people that have helped me throughout my career as well. One of the questions that I get asked, what publicist got you on the Grammys? No publicist got me on the Grammys. I got me to the Grammys. What publicist got you here? No publicist didn't help me get it. I did that. I was in the Oscars because of me building relationships and networks. And that is, you hear it all the time. What is it? Your network is your net worth, and things like that. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It really is up to you to build those relationships. But you really have to figure out what you want. What do you want? How fast do you want to build it? How big do you want to grow? And that's kind of where you start. And then along that way, who are you going to need to help you get from point A to point B? I can't really say, I don't know your business, so I can't really say that, you can do this and then someone else can do that. You'll just have to really sit down and determine those things. Where are you going and who do you need to help you get to where you're going?
I just want to add something too here. I think yes, Tabatha, our greatest tools are ourselves, putting ourselves out there. You could spend all the money on publicists, but no one's going to be a better representation of your company or pitching you other than yourself at this early stage. So I am aligned with you on that, but I want to say one way to that's really helped me in terms of implementing processes is, I break down like what our immediate goal is and as simple as possible. So right now, since we're early stage, we want to get Noula into the hands of as many women and birthing people as possible. So brand awareness. So every day, I actually have it on my screen, is I have a question that says, what am I doing today to bring on one new Noula customer? And so then I work backwards from that. So what do I need to do in terms of a process to, one, create something that's measurable and something that I can analyze too. So we look at, okay, based on that, what what metrics are we building there? And what am I doing consistently on a day-to-day basis to achieve that? So let's say, we are looking to, I'm just going to throw this random goal out. Like, let's say I want to bring on, a employer as a partner. So then I work backwards as, okay, what are the leading indicators to improve my chances of success to getting that? And that comes through consistency and just like output. So then I break it down as far as output. And I've used a lot of different tools that are honestly free that you can get online versus paying for someone to help you with this. But there's a wonderful book that I read called The Lean Startup Method. And that really helped me kind of build this funnel and cadence of constantly learning, testing, and reiterating. So I'm continuously improving upon my process. And then Google has wonderful free templates on creating OKRs, which are essentially goal setting and helping you stay accountable to measuring those goals. And that's what we use throughout our company and what I've used at every company.
I think we are, as we figured we would be, running out of time. If you could all just let us know where you find that community. This can be a very lonely road, a very lonely journey if you allow it to be. Of course, we have Vest, great community here, and you're all part of that. So of course, we're all community here for you and for each other. But if you can let us know where you found your community.
For me, it's been just like this. Companies like Vest that are willing to bring people together. And whether it's Zoom calls, Slack groups, sometimes Facebook groups even that are still active. But I found a lot of friends and founder friends through the New Voices family. I think it's the New Voices Foundation. And a lot of the founders there that I've been in cohorts with, we still talk, we still meet up, we still email and text each other. We have a call tomorrow to get together and just check in with each other. Because like she said, your friends and your family, they might not all relate to the journey that you're on. And you can't always go to them for business support or for just founder support. I don't have coworkers in here. It's just me, so it's nice to have that out, that opportunity to connect with other female founders in similar spaces and just like this. So you feel human and connected. And that's important. And for the sake of time, I'll just answer Erica's questions. If you guys know anybody that's got skin or scalp itchy skin or scalp issues, send them my way.
Yeah, mine has truly been connecting with other founders too. We frequently meet up for brunches, coffees, or chat over Slack groups, communities like Vest. I've actually connected with quite a few Vest members over LinkedIn. So that's just been such a wonderful outlet to kind of just, some days we just want to vent, some days we want to uplift each other. And, that's just, I think, again, it is such an isolating journey that having that community of support is so powerful because, again, like our friends, our family might not understand the day-to-day or what struggles and how much emotional of a roller coaster it can be even in just one day than other founders. So.
And what can we do to help you reach customers or partners?
We're looking for anyone who wants to try Noula and give us their feedback. So I'm happy to provide anyone in this group free access to Noula. It's about a $300 value. And so you would have access to customized health testing that's delivered straight to your home. It looks just like this little box. So happy to give anyone of this free. You have the opportunity to have dedicated care coaching from a Noula nurse. And so really that's the best way is help us by sharing your feedback on what we can do to improve your experience in the healthcare system as a woman.
Wow, great offer. And thank you for sharing. Dr. Carr, you want to finish out?
Yes, I'll make it brief because we're out of time. Just continue to build community. That's the thing. You have Best, you have, this accelerated, this cohort, like me, I'm in another accelerated Whole Foods, then I'm going to be in another one in the fall. Just continue to build. For me, just follow us, like, share. Sharing is caring.
If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and subscribe to our podcast for future episodes. You can also join the conversation by becoming a Best member. Go to www.vester.co and apply today.